So, welcome. Here's the first ever episode of the Failing Writers podcast, and I guess this is the one we'll all look back on in years to come and be thoroughly embarrassed about our amateurish delivery and the content and, well, everything really. So yeah, enjoy. There's three of us on this podcast. I'm Tom. I've written next to nothing, really. Well, I've written loads, but never actually finished anything. And I guess that's half the reason I thought this podcast would be a good idea. Give me a kick up the arse and get me writing.
I'm Dave. I actually quit my job to become a full-time writer. That was 15 years ago now. I finally finished something last year, and I'm hoping that this year someone might actually read it.
Hello, I'm John. I've written several short stories and even a couple of novels, which would be great if they were any good, but they're not. Thankfully, they've never been published, so, I can always pretend to myself that maybe they're avant-garde classics. Maybe I'll get discovered shortly after I die, like John Kennedy Toole, but most probably not.
Me, John and Dave have known each other for 20 years. We met working in radio, writing ads, so, we do know how to string a few words together, but we all eventually ditched the world of commercial writing and now all work as voiceovers. So I thought, well, we've all got mics and a studio and a bit of time on our hands, and we all keep saying we want to write more, so let's waste time that we could spend writing by just talking about it instead. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Are we up with the concept of the podcast?
I think so. Yeah. Why don't you lay it out for us, Tom?
Well, it was in the document that you've obviously
Assume
not
that
read.
we
It,
don't.
but
Well,
good
I know,
bluffing,
but from the listener's point of view, explain it to us as though we've never heard it before.
Because you've not read the outline.
No,
document
I'm just saying, as a listener, I wouldn't.
Just to clarify that. Have you read the document?
I have read the document, yeah, but none of our listeners will have.
No, that's.
He's got a valid point.
So,
I think percentage-wise, that probably still puts us ahead. What with there being three of us, though, I think there's probably that's at least a 3-to-1 ratio, I'd imagine. Hi, Mum. Isn't it?
We'll have all have explained it explicitly to the other people who are listening to it in our households, in a really concise way.
I think it's about life, isn't it? Really. And why is that? Right, if you can leave now. No one will miss you if you go now. It's not like we're in episode 12 and going, oh, where's that John guy gone? He was quite funny, wasn't he? None of that. No laughing at the back.
Sorry, carry on.
So it is about life because it's hung around us pretending that we're trying to write stuff and trying to write stuff and never really getting around to it because life gets in the way.
Yep.
So it is about everyday life.
About our lives.
And it's a bit of an antidote to the people that you see that become famous, the bastards that get rich and famous.
What, the
and do
experts,
stuff
the so-called experts?
Oh,
yeah.
No, the J.K. Rowlings of this world and what have you.
What, the people who have good ideas and then finish them.
Yeah, and then actually get...
Despite having kids.
Get to the end of them.
Yeah.
Deliver.
Despite having all of the issues that we face, somehow still actually manage to finish something and then make a career out of it.
And probably full-time jobs as well, compared to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenging backgrounds.
But they're in a massive minority.
Yeah.
Most people aren't, are they? Most don't quite
Most
finish
people,
that book,
by definition, aren't in a minority.
I think most people are in the majority.
Yeah.
And I defy anyone to say different. For every one person that even gets a book published, even if it's shite and doesn't sell anything, there's thousands of people that have gone, oh yeah, an idea once, but I never got around to writing it.
What do you think the percentage is of people who actually try to write something?
The percentage of people...
Yeah, people in the
who
world...
actually try to write something.
Who want to write something, maybe have a little go and then quit.
Oh.
But I think you've got it stratifies, doesn't it? It's like a pyramid of writing. So at the bottom, you've got all these people who go, oh, I should write a book about my life. I've got some funny stories. And they never do anything about it.
I imagine it's probably a similar percentage to the people who go, my roof needs plastering. I'll have a go at that myself. But most people can't do it, but would happily look at someone else's ceiling and go, I could have done better than that.
That's true. The clever people know that they couldn't, though.
Yeah. or have it lined up for ages, thinking, one day I'll get around to that. I've just got to get all my ducks in a row, and then when I start, it'll be fine.
It probably would be similar as well, because you'd plaster your ceiling, wouldn't you? And then you would keep looking at it going, I thought that was all right when I did it, but it's shite.
Yeah.
It's very similar to
lot like my writing,
respect, then, isn't it?
Yeah. But now that I've done that one, I could probably the next one will be better. The next one, but it won't. It'll be worse.
You're listening to the Failing Writers Podcast. Stay tuned for more average chit chat. I don't think I think I've just about finished a proper first draft of what might be called a short book after probably getting on for 15 years of promising myself that I would actually.
Have you finished it, Tom?
It's finished is a strong word, isn't it?
Have we ever
finished sounds like it's available in all good bookshops, but it isn't. No, the first draft is probably finished.
Right.
In that, I don't think there's anything more to write on it. So.
Yeah.
And I've reached my arbitrary.
Got any more words?
Word limit that I've given myself.
Sometimes it's about knowing when to stop as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Flogging a dead horse. Is that what you mean? But I think I said to one of you guys that the weird thing is, I'm reading through it now and simultaneously thinking, this is shite. Why? This is rubbish. God, no one wants to read this whilst doing the first kind of edit on it. And at the same time as thinking that, I'm thinking, there's nothing I can change with this. This is perfect. Why am I even, come on, how do you do an edit?
It's the writer's paradox, isn't it?
It is a bit, but it's genuine that you kind of think that it is simultaneously brilliant and also mostly gash.
Yeah. I think it's, that sort of, it's as good as I can get it. I can't get it any better than that. So that'll do. I suppose you could say that everyone finishes stuff. It's easy to finish things as long as you're prepared to downgrade your,
expectation.
Your idea of your expectations. Yeah, downgrade your expectations. Everything's finished, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think even the most famous, most talented author will look back on books they've written 5-10 years ago and look at stuff and go, oh, that bit was a bit clumsy, or God, I wish I could still change that bit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they?
I would. Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Even some of our award-winning ads, in retrospect, might not have been.
We might be able to tweak.
Brilliant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's very true.
I guess half the battle is getting to something where you've actually finished something that you can actually go back and edit, rather than feeling like you need to actually finish it.
Yeah.
You finished something, haven't you, John? You finished a proper.
Yeah.
All right. No. Just
it's
steady on the first podcast. Keep something back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Philip Pullman has, does he call it phase space or something?
Phil.
Phil.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he talks about, having, it's almost like out there somewhere is the perfect book that you could have written. And what you're trying to do is just find it. You're trying to find the right words for the perfect sort of version that exists.
Yeah.
Which is the phase space. But you inevitably can't ever quite get there.
No.
And it does feel a bit like that.
No.
In fact, it feels like that all the time for me, because I can't.
Well, you could always tinker with stuff, innit? But as I was saying to you the other day, Tom, with your book thing, it's, the first step is to write the end. So, when you've actually just say, I could finish this, just say, right, that's the first draft done, the end. You can always go back and change stuff, can't you? But you just got to, at some point, you got to say, right, I'm done. I'm going out for a bit now. Although our problem probably is that the going out for a bit...
Kind of the opposite, isn't it, really?
Yeah, going out for a bit by far outweighs the actual doing stuff bit.
Yeah.
Treat yourself to a walk.
Yeah. So what things have you finished, John? Don't read them out in full now. Just give us a brief.
Yeah.
I've written a few short stories.
Were they any good?
I don't know. They're all right, I suppose. It's hard to say.
I heard those stories.
Oh, there you go.
They were good.
Dave can tell you.
They were nice.
There you go. They're nice. So that's good.
They were very, very good.
So what did you do with them?
I didn't do anything with them. I just carried on writing more stories.
Just sent them to Dave.
But eventually, after a very long time of being quite comfortable, just writing stuff and never letting anyone read it, I thought, screw it, I'm going to record them. I do actually read out loud for a living, I thought. That's That was the conclusion I came
Yeah.
to. I could actually read this out loud, seeing as that's what I do for a job. And maybe it wouldn't sound that bad. I don't know. So that's what I did. But it took me years
And
to come to that conclusion. But I think it's very easy to trick yourself as a writer that you're kind of almost just doing it for yourself. I think that's what I told myself for a very long time, is that, I just enjoy like getting it out, almost like it's therapy or something. But ultimately that's not really the purpose of writing, is it? Is for effectively to share it around. And
No, it is.
it is. That's exactly what it is.
I think there is something therapeutic about getting it out,
but
isn't
that's
there?
also
And
terrifying. And so being a bit of a coward.
without the sharing of
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything, does it?
So I figured that out eventually. But it's still terrifying. It doesn't stop it being terrifying. It's like when I posted it on Facebook, I was like my, the little cursor was hovering over the post thing, and I actually got a bit of a sweat on before I pressed it.
yes.
It is quite weird.
Well, yeah, you sort of worry about, is anyone going to
Yeah.
like this? But,
How did you feel, Dave, when you posted the first episode?
Same sort of thing, just sort of worried because I'd spent so long writing that. I'd spent like 12 years writing it and tweaking it and fiddling with it.
Yeah.
And I did exactly the same thing of thinking, do you know what? I talk for a living, and I know a lot of other people who talk for a living as well. Rather than waiting for this magical, mystical fairy to fall out of the sky and just say, Dave, that thing you wrote's brilliant, we're going to make it and put it on the radio, I'll just make it myself. But it was still, it's nerve-wracking, isn't it?
It is.
Even when people sort of say, oh, no, it's really good. And then the biggest thing is that you realise that hardly anyone actually reads it or listens to it.
Oh, my God.
It really doesn't matter, does it? But, it is a big step, though.
It's so true. Just getting people to listen to it. I remember you saying that. I remember you saying that's much harder than producing it, writing it, all that kind of stuff. That takes a long time, but actually getting people to listen to it—that's the hard bit.
It is, and you kind of got to try to keep that in mind, haven't you? When you're writing stuff, that you sort of put barriers to actually finishing something.
Yeah.
But that's the easy bit
Oh, God,
in a
don't
way.
say
If
that,
what you
yeah.
want is to write something that other people enjoy, no, but you could look.
That genuinely
Yeah.
the easy bit.
You could-
That's kind of the bit I got stuck on.
Yeah, but you can shut your eyes and write any old shit. If you're the only one who ever reads it,
that's
it
what I've
doesn't
been doing
matter,
that,
does
yeah.
it? You know,
Yeah.
if you start thinking in terms of right, who's going to read it or who's going to see it or hear it or whatever.
I think there's a bit of a dichotomy in the modern world as well, isn't there? That you think, well, it's fine, you can just do it, and then like with your radio sitcom thing, that you think, well, we'll just whack it out on social media. Social media's there. Just put it on social
Just
media.
magically. Yeah.
As if
It'll
that,
just
magically everyone will just go, oh, God, and then it'll explode and become a thing. And
The
it's
internet
like, well,
disseminates.
I think
it doesn't, does it?
yeah.
Actually, what you're doing there is put it in a massive pool of a million other things.
It is a bit like sticking it in a shop window, really. I might as well have just written a story,
Put some CDs.
photocopied it, and then just.
Do you think in the olden days you would have just got some postcards and put them in the post
Yeah,
office front window?
Yeah, just serialised it over a couple
Yeah.
of months, and every day put a new postcard in the local corner
Pop in
shop
the post
window.
office
Yeah.
and ask Mrs. Goggins for the cassette. But please rewind it and bring it back for the next person.
But I completely, I have no idea how social media works. So when we were recording that, and I was thinking, who should we get to play this part? And I thought, she's got 5,000 followers on Twitter. I'll get her to do it. One retweet from her. That's it. I'm sold.
Brilliant. So it wasn't on the talent. Just to clarify for this podcast we're doing that other people can listen to, including the people you asked to voice on your thing.
Yeah.
It was nothing to do with their talent levels or anything. It was you just literally judged stuff on
Just Twitter numbers.
social media followers.
Yeah. Didn't even care if they could speak.
Do you know, that's lovely, though, because you must have come to me for my talent because I have literally no followers.
Exactly.
We should probably say what it is, just in case anyone ever actually listens to this podcast.
What, anything for you?
Anything for you. That's the letter for you.
I'll tell you a little bit about that, right? So I managed to get it on
I can just
Through
edit
the
this bit out, John. It's fine. Carry on, Dave. No, this is interesting. Go on.
through BBC Upload. It was played on BBC Radio Bristol, right? And the guy who presented the show played it out, and he seemed to really enjoy it, but he got my name wrong when he said, "Oh, and that's written by Dave Bard." There we go.
Dave the Bard.
So I thought, Yeah, I thought, oh.
so now that's Dave's stage name, and now everything he does has to be done.
Well, I thought it'd be a good thing. I could get in touch, send him like a little cheeky message, just saying, oh, thanks very much for that. But by the way, got my name wrong. Next time, you can say it like this. And I thought that's a nice little introduction. And then he has played 2 more episodes, and both times he's not mentioned my name at all. He's just gone. I think he's just gone. I don't know how to say this. Forget it. Won't say it. He just said this has been sent in.
That makes it sound like something that someone spent like 10 minutes over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this has just been sent. Someone's left this line around. May as well play it. It's obviously not taken hours and many different people and vocal
Years,
talents
Tommy,
on there
years.
and editing and all the time writing.
Yeah, years.
Yeah. No, someone's left this here. Press play.
So, Betty, who did you? How did you find the person to send it to? Did you just contact? Was it like a phone in? How did you contact them?
Wasn't it what the Alan Partridge Alpha Papa film was based on, where he hijacks the radio station and with a sawn-off shotgun?
It was similar.
Yeah.
But no, I can't remember now. Somebody just said something about BBC Up. Oh, that was it, because they do a BBC Upload festival once a year. Someone told me about that, so I rushed to send stuff into BBC Upload at your local BBC radio station. And it went from there. Didn't get into the festival, but
Didn't it also play out in Rotherham or something, or
in Sheffield? So it started on BBC Sheffield.
That's right.
They serialized. It was a half-hour episode, and they serialized it over 7 nights.
What, one episode?
One episode, yeah, which wasn't, it wasn't how it was intended to be,
No.
but at least it was out there.
Totally.
But that's the other thing. Like, even when you start worrying, if you're worrying whilst writing something about what other people's reaction is going to be, you don't even have any control over how they're going to access it.
No.
We were talking the other day, Tom, about the sort of the things you start worrying about.
The ludicrous thought process you go through while you're on chapter 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you skip to the end of what you're writing and then skip through the publishing phase and then skip like many years into the future and start worrying about what might happen.
Oh no, I can worry about all of those stages. Take it in bits, worry about each one.
Yeah.
And then eventually you start worrying about your interview on Jonathan Ross.
Exactly, yeah.
When it's got a bit big, and then, what if I say something stupid on there? Do you know what? I probably shouldn't write this book.
Yeah. I remember just like writing something and thinking, oh, what's the point now? Parky's not on anymore. Like, if I'm not going to be on Parkinson being interviewed about it, so I don't want to talk to Graham Norton.
You've made some big mental leaps,
ridiculous.
Exactly. Do you not do that, John? Do you not kind of have these weird, I'd say fantasies, but they're not pleasant?
No. I did it. I've been writing this thing. I've been trying to write a sitcom based on when I used to work in a chemist in the little tiny town that I'm from in the West Country. And I was writing it, and I was sort of halfway through, and then I realised one of the characters I'd given the same name as someone who actually worked there. The character wasn't based on that person, but I went, oh no, that was a real person. What if they hear it and they get really angry about it? Like, what if I'm on my sort of open-top bus tour through the town celebrating this incredibly successful sitcom, and Jane comes up and goes, hey, hang on a minute, I wasn't like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you'd have to do like what would you do, take out a full-page ad in the Times or something and apologise?
I just have to, refer to as Jane, brackets, not that Jane.
Yeah.
Rather than change her name, which would obviously be way too
late.
difficult
But
to go back through the
by
script.
this point in the fantasy, it's too late.
No, it's not,
in my,
Dave.
In my
change
head.
your name to someone else who works there who'd be less annoyed by it.
But yeah, that's not how these fantasies work.
Well, no, the book that I've finished, I'm worried because I started it maybe 10 years ago, and it's a pastiche of a sales training book, which I'm from our time collectively in radio, we've seen some pretty horrible, horrendous, amusing sales trainers and salespeople and sales directors, and I've kind of written that, but it is some of it's quite close to the bone. And
in what sense, Tommy?
Just obviously it's meant to be ironic and self-referential and kind of poking fun at the old guard and the kind of out-of-touch sales machine kind of thing.
So he's not afraid of saying sexist, racist things.
Yeah, he's a Yorkshire kind of, yeah, exactly. And you think, well, I don't know, maybe sort of 10, 15 years ago or back in the 90s when anything went, that'd be fine. But now I think there'd be a lot of people that would get offended by it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I think people should still be offended by stuff.
Well, yeah, I know, yeah. But again, that's another...
But I started worrying about, obviously, it's fine, but obviously when I do self-publish and put it on Amazon and it gets a massive viral following and...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
will
then,
people understand the subtle nuance of his character? Or will they just think that you're a massive racist?
Well, no, yeah, exactly. Some kind of transphobic, racist, homophobic.
I mean, what normally happens in those circumstances, Tommy, is that you'd just split the country, right? So you'd have half your fans, just absolutely loving you, just thinking you're the best thing ever. And then some really, like the anti-Tom Brigade, who just despise you.
Yeah.
But there is a big call, from the government for more right-wing comedy, Tom. So that'd be fine.
It's not though. It's not right-wing comedy, Dave.
But
it's ironic.
I know, but yeah, that's it, isn't it?
See, it started already. People are getting the wrong end of the stick. Oh my God!
But that's the thing.
Am I going to be signed up for this new right-wing news channel against my will? We're going to end up on there. Next on is Tom with his mate Nige. All right, Nige. God, what's happened? This is why I shouldn't finish books.
That does happen, doesn't it? People do get the wrong end of the stick quite often. What was I watching the other day? And it was about the fact that Adolf Hitler loved Citizen Kane. I thought, that makes sense. And also Donald Trump loved Citizen Kane as well. Says a lot.
Yeah.
I think they just totally got the wrong end of the stick. Maybe they'd never watched the end.
Yeah, maybe they just like the poster. But it is, those are sometimes... Do you ever have that, John? Do you ever, whilst writing something, think about what the consequences of it might be once it's released into the world?
I do. The only... I don't get as far as you guys. I'll be honest with you. But I do... Do you know what I think? I think, what would my mum think about that?
Oh,
would my mum get offended?
Yes.
That often pops in there.
Yeah.
Is she easily offended, your mum?
No, not really.
Has she met Tom?
I've always tried to keep them apart.
No, John wouldn't introduce me to her. Yeah.
No, just people who are precious to me. Those people, I do think about them definitely. I think less about the wider world. Definitely, I'm not so fussed about them.
I think the hilarious thing there is, John, that you're thinking just about how your mum would feel about that. Me and Dave have immediately leapt to the fact that there would be people following your mum around because of some massive thing on Twitter about it.
Yeah.
That's where our brains go straight. Yeah, don't write that. Don't write that because
going to
that's
get abused for that.
Oh my God! They find out your address and then that's it. You've had it, haven't you?
Your mum's just gone to get her hair cut and there's people abusing her in the hairdressers.
I mean, that's happened. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but that will happen.
That will happen, won't it?
Yeah.
You write that.
God, imagine if she ends up sat next to in the hairdressers, next to Jane from that pharmacy down in the West Country.
God. Nightmare.
And they start talking.
Yeah. And then they find out that I know Tom Turner, the racist.
Oh.
What, the one that wrote the dodgy sales book about that guy wanking people off it? Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it? So,
although on the plus side, that might mean that all three of us could go on Jonathan Ross together.
What, to sort of back each other up?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, John would probably go, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and leave us looking like the twats.
Yeah.
But yeah,
probably have his mum in the audience. I didn't mean it, Mum.
I'd be like, John's mum, and John would be like, "No, she gets easily offended. Don't do that."
But maybe we should try and stop that, Tom. Maybe we should force ourselves not to look past the end of that draft of whatever you're writing,
we should do, really, because it is the equivalent of worrying about which supercar you'd buy when you win the lottery next week, isn't it?
Yeah. I do often think, but if I win a load of money, would I want anyone to know? Would I be really worried about people asking me for money? I don't even buy tickets. I don't even buy lottery tickets, but I'm worried about what would happen if I did win the money. It's ridiculous, and that's,
Although not buying tickets only reduces your chances of winning a tiny bit.
That's true. That is true, yeah. Practically the same. Although on that basis, not writing anything doesn't really reduce our chances of never having anything published.
There you go. Yeah, I think definitely writing something to start with has got to help, right?
Sorry, just to clarify, Are we not counting the 1996 co-op poetry anthology when you say publish? Because I have got a.
Do
certificate.
you have it
Yeah.
handy, Tom? I'd love to hear it.
No.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's for the
Okay.
next podcast.
Maybe
Something to look
yes.
forward to.
That's
Maybe the next podcast, we should all bring a piece of our juvenile writing.
Oh, I've
in.
got a good
Yes.
love poem.
Teenage poetry.
I've got one. I'm the first. Actually, yes. The first thing that I ever saw, like in writing, that I wrote.
The first thing you got published in a national publication. I mean, I'll bring the poem from the 1996 co-op anthology.
I don't know if you remember these things. There were these things in the 90s that they sort of advertised themselves as you could get your poem in a published anthology. What they really wanted you to do was like pay
Some money.
a load of money. Yeah, and pretty much anyone who paid could get the words they wrote in a book that no one would ever read.
So just clarify, the co-op one was not. It was
No,
co-op, so
no.
that wasn't a paid for.
You wouldn't.
They were just selected on
no,
talent.
I wouldn't.
It was just on merit.
Yeah,
Dave
that's the
isn't
co-op,
insinuating that, Tom.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I
ever.
just wanted to. It wasn't. I know you guys know that I'm an excellent writer and I'd get in there on merit, but there'd be thousands of people listening to
The
the
listeners,
podcast. that
yeah.
might- yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want one of them ending up in the audience on Jonathan Ross,
No,
do
we
I?
don't.
Shouting it out.
No. Oh well, there we go. Then that's our cliffhanger for
There
episode
you
2.
go.
Is bring in your first bit of published juvenile poetry.
This is the Failing Writers Podcast. Coming next, some more stuff.
But there are what other things do you put in your way to avoid writing? Like so today, for example, in the bathroom that we've got upstairs, there's a very sort of thin partition wall, and I tried to hang a towel rail on it many years ago, and it sort of fell off, and it pulled 2 great big holes in the wall, and these holes have been there for about 5 years. And then today, as I sat down thinking, right, I've got a couple of hours, I'm going to get something written, I suddenly had an irresistible urge that I couldn't control to go and get some filler and fill these holes up in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lovely job of it, but it wasn't like I had to do it today, but it was just anything. I'd gone through every other reason to not write anything. So
Yeah.
filled some holes in the wall.
There is always something, isn't
There
there?
is, isn't there?
Yeah, urgent little
It
things.
should be a thing that you either write loads or you have like an amazing house where everything's finished. Well, I somehow seem to have got neither. But
But then really, should you not look forward to writing?
I do look forward to writing right up until the moment that I sit down and start, and then I'll think of anything else to do.
And I've tried explaining this to people before, that actually writing is a chore.
Yeah.
I know I'm good at it, but I don't enjoy it all the time. But I do when I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah, that's right. When it's sort of writing itself, it's lovely.
Yeah, when you feel like a passenger.
Yeah.
But do either of you two get writing narcolepsy? Just me then.
Right.
I'll be like reading.
It's not a phrase that I'd heard before.
I'll be-
Yeah.
I think both me and Dave were probably expecting some kind of explanation on the back of that.
I'll be writing something, and then I'll get to a really gnarly bit, and then I'll just want to go to sleep.
I'll be writing something, and then I'll just wake up.
It is a bit like that. It's literally like my head starts nodding. It's like because it's difficult
well,
because
yeah.
your brain is trying to do something quite knotty, and
Yeah.
you know, it can be like a jigsaw puzzle sometimes, can't it? It's like you're trying to fit these bits together that don't quite work yet, and
Yeah,
you're trying to work out a way
yeah.
of getting through that little knotty bit, and then I find I'm asleep.
God, that's but that's something. That's something that scares me about the kind of the editing process. The idea of editing, that it's like writing Jenga. That if you just start changing
Yeah.
this bit here,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like there's this vein of narrative or story, or that entire chapter needs change, and that's the wrong perspective
Oh.
now. And then
Yeah.
so that bit that I know is a little bit wrong, just gonna leave that.
Hope it'll go away next time I read it.
Changes all these other bits.
And you're right. Yeah, these are bits where you go, right, that person, I want that person to say that at that point. And they'll only say that if they say that before them. So I don't want to change anything before that, because otherwise I won't end up at that amazing joke about, I don't know, cabbage or whatever at the end of it. Yeah.
So how do you make yourself write, Birdie? Do you just have to be in the right place?
Yeah, I'd be in the right place at the right time with the right things around me and the right motivation.
And the right coffee.
Yeah, the sun has to be in the right place. And
that's the worst thing, isn't it? When you start rearranging your environment, persuading yourself you couldn't possibly.
I can't
start writing. Oh, I better give this desk a clean.
And I also need to have. You need to have like a few clear hours ahead.
That's really true. Yeah.
I think, right, if I've only got
for your 25 minutes of writing.
I've only got an hour until I've got to go and pick kids up from school, so I can't start now. There's no point. I can't possibly do 55 minutes of writing because that doesn't work. I need 2 clear hours. So I do that sometimes. I think, right, I'll start at 10 and I'll just write solidly, not do anything else for 2 hours until 12 o'clock, and then I'll have a sandwich. And then it gets to like 12 o'clock and so the phone rings, and then I do something else, and then it's 10 past 12 and I think, well, that's it now. I haven't got 2 hours free.
Yeah.
So there's no point starting now.
It's true. But it is true about needing lots of time as well. Because you sort of need the first half hour just to get back into what you were doing before. So you need to do a little bit of rereading. By the time you've done that, you sort of, that's half an hour. And then you maybe come up with a little bit of an idea. And then you've written that down. You've maybe done a paragraph in an hour.
Yeah, but is that true though? Because I think that a lot.
Well, I think it
true?
is if you don't write regularly. If you write every day, then it's always fresh in your mind, so you can just get going. The problem is, if you leave it a week or 2 weeks, then you do need to refresh where you are, don't you? And you're just not in the zone.
See, I was thinking about this the other day. It's a bit like sort of exercising, where I think, right, I need to. If I don't do a half hour block of exercise, then it's no use. Whereas actually, the truth is, even just doing something for 5 minutes is better than doing nothing.
Something is better than nothing.
And surely the same is true with writing. If you just sat down and just typed a few words down, one of them would probably be all right.
And one a day. I mean, you get there eventually.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but you joke about that, but if actually I'd have sitting down and sitting down, good at the writings. If I'd have sitting
down in the holy bowl.
If I'd have sat down every day and written 100 words, I would have substantially more words now on paper.
Well, you'd have 100 words more than you did yesterday.
I would have 100 words
But I think
more.
that's why they say write every day, isn't it? Because you're then ready to write the next 100 words. Whereas if you don't do it every single day, you've already forgotten what you're supposed to be doing. And you've got no chance. It is tricky. I used to do all my writing on the train, which actually is a brilliant place to write because there's absolutely nothing else to
sacked,
do.
Didn't you, after that crash?
Yeah.
That was your end of your career as a train driver.
Oh, the near misses I had.
It's that bloody writing narcolepsy. That's the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the next station stop would be up. No, we've gone past there. Hold on a minute. John must have got onto a tricky bit or a fun bit in his right. Yeah, I'll work him up.
But that's being on a train, or the train down to London, 2 hours, and that was 3 days a week down to London and back again. That's that's 4 hours a day of just hitting it and having nothing else to do.
It's a good environment as well because you're trapped,
you're
aren't
totally
you?
trapped.
You haven't got you can't go into the train bathroom and put the towel rail up that needs putting up. You could, but that would be a bit weird.
So my output now, having not been on a train for a year, is appalling.
Yeah. You know, in the Netherlands, I think it is, at old folks' homes where they go when they've got dementia and stuff, they started doing stuff where they will decorate out a room that looks like a train, where they can go and sit and pretend to be on a train journey. I don't know if you've got a spare room at home, John.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Apparently often they put a bus stop outside as well, outside the facility or in the foyer. So when they go wandering off, they'll automatically wait there so they can get them back easy. They don't actually go any further than the bus stop.
Isn't that, though, just another example of having to create the perfect environment, which never really exists? Just get on with it, really. That's the message, isn't it? That's the...
Unfortunately, it is, isn't it? It's the same as anything else in life. Like you say, exercise, work, writing.
Stop, like, just chatting. Stop doing podcasts about it.
Stop doing this. Stop doing this.
Oh, yeah. Hold on a minute.
Just get on with it.
I think the only reason I suggested this was that I thought it might give me the impetus via shame to turn up for next week's podcast going, I have written something. I've written.
But what we're really doing is affirming each other's reasons to not write anything. And instead of writing anything new, we're just going to come back with the poems we wrote when we were teenagers.
That will be funny, though.
Well, no, hopefully as the podcast burgeons and becomes massively viral, as we share it through our
massive social networks.
Rich vein of social media.
What we need to do is get a guest on who's got 5,000 Twitter followers.
Now you're talking.
That's how it works, isn't it?
You must have got good at the social media stuff, though, having done anything for you.
No.
Paddy.
No. Really bad at it. Really bad. So, I've tried, but
what's the trick?
I don't know. If I knew what the trick was, I wouldn't be so bad at it.
Have you read stuff about what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, I've read things and I've watched videos, and I don't know. I think it just it seems to be don't overthink it too much, which is becoming a bit of a theme, isn't it? Like
I don't think you can force it on social media.
No,
can you? It either gets picked up.
Yeah, you've just got to keep on hammering away at something and hope that the algorithm eventually picks it up.
And you have to there's always a possibility as well that your sitcom
There's
shit.
That, yeah. There's it. So, number one.
I mean, obviously, it's very well acted. I get
number
that.
one, write something that's actually good. And number two.
No, but it's got to hit. You need luck, don't you? It's the same as anything.
You need luck, but you also need to be quite popular. And I think that's where I fall down as well. Like, I would sort of tweet and go on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff to sort of try and publicise it.
You just need a couple of celebrities, don't you, retweeting?
Yeah, it'd be like you two would come back and like it. And I think, that's great, but you're in it, you know. I don't want you to hear it. I want other people.
Dave, you got my only single piece of social media liking for the entire year, probably there.
But then Rick who produced it, who's quite a popular chap, he sort of reshared it and went, I'm really glad I worked on this. And loads of people came back going, well done, Rick. Well, yeah, that's brilliant. Well, great. I'll listen to that. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like you say, it's a bit of luck. The key to social media seems to be, I'm going to sound really old now, innit? But it seems to be not really caring about whether anyone's interested in what you're saying. Just say it anyway.
Yeah,
some people will be and some people won't.
Just take a photograph of your fucking lunch and put it on there.
Exactly.
I think
but isn't that like what it comes down to with all writing? Like if you spend too long worrying about, as we've discussed, worrying about what Jonathan Ross will think about
or my mum,
you'd never actually write anything. Or your mum, just get on and do it.
Yeah, it's very true. The first short story that I posted got 100 listens, like quite quickly, and then the second one, I think it was 50, and then the third one was like 12 or something.
I didn't even know there was a third one.
and that's partly, I mean, you're absolutely right in saying that you shouldn't worry about all that kind of stuff, but you can't help seeing the pattern.
Yeah.
Like,
no, absolutely.
Do I really want to bring out another one that 2 people are going to listen to? And that'll be Katie and my mum, probably. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you. It
is. Well, I think part of it is, I think it's something to do with an algorithm that like Facebook in particular, I think, if you start trying to push the same thing, it goes, you're trying to flog something here. We don't want you to do that for free. We want you to pay for advertising. So it puts you to the back of the queue. Whereas if it's just, like Tom says, if it's a picture of your food, then, away you go.
The other thing to do as well, social media, what seems to work is just totally lie.
Yeah.
So just, this is one, like 4 short story awards.
I'll give you an award if you want to. You don't have to lie.
You could send me an award. I could actually hold it up.
Yeah.
That's got to be a way forward.
That's true. Because there's something I struggled with when I was trying to work out how to promote anything for you. I was like saying, this new comedy. And I wanted to say something like, in this hilarious comedy, or, this is really, but I struggled with the sort of.
Looking like a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Looking like some twat who's just saying, hey, I've done something and it's amazing. You should listen to it. It's hilarious. But that's kind of what you've got to do, isn't it? You've got to sort of shout about yourself.
I don't know, because when I see stuff like that, especially like on LinkedIn, it just makes my eyes.
Yeah, but are we atypical in that sense? Like,
But
actually, if other people have become successful by simply thinking that they are good and shouting about it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's that simple, but you've kind of got to do that.
I think you're right.
Like, if you don't think that you're good, then what chance? Have you got?
The more superlatives you use when you're describing something you've done means that there'll be more. I don't know, like it'll just get caught up somehow by Google and Facebook or whatever. It's like there are algorithms looking for hilarious. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, isn't it? I don't know.
Well, it's what they do on film posters and theatre.
Yeah. But get the keywords in there.
The Mirror.
Maybe that was the review.
If there's one thing this film wasn't, it's
hilarious. The Mirror.
But you're right. It's the same with all of it. Really, is about having a bit of self-confidence. Because if you don't think that what you're writing is any good, then why are you writing it for?
So that's a good point, Dave. Might stop.
Well, all evidence is pointing towards the things that we've written not being very good, isn't it, really? But
you always look at the stuff you've written or yourself as a writer and think, well, of course I'm a better writer than these other people. So that's where your deep hatred for success comes from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you see a sitcom on BBC Three and think, how has this got produced?
I think one of the problems...
It's clunky.
One of the problems I face is that I do love like classic literature, and I don't watch a lot of TV unless someone recommends something that's brilliant.
I told you you'd make it more highbrow, didn't I, Dave?
So what I end up doing is reading stuff that's really, really good, and watching stuff that's really, really good, and I think I need to watch more shit. Because I think it makes you look at your own work and go, that is pretty bad. Because you can't help comparing, even though you shouldn't be comparing.
It kind of works both ways. Sometimes you watch something and go, that's awful. I could do better than that. But then sometimes I watch something and go, that's shit. That's just shit. But the people in charge of putting stuff on TV think that that's good. So
that's true.
Maybe
that's what gives you
my
hope.
idea. No, it's the exact opposite. So I think, well, if they think that's good, they're never going to think that anything that I write is good. Because
do you not think, though, part of it is, and you think back to when we were writing adverts, is that you'd write something that was pretty good, or in my case, exceptionally good, and then you would take it to the client and they'd have a little nibble at it, and then something would happen where this line needs to go in for legal reasons or because of that supply and what have you. And then what actually goes out on the radio is some kind of, it's a bit rubbish and clunky and that sounds weird.
Yeah.
Oh, and they've used the wrong voiceover on it and that music's terrible. Do you not think that happens with production stuff that goes through particularly big organisations like the BBC and what have you?
The first thing that I ever had on telly, so a sketch that I wrote years and years ago, about 13 or 14 years ago. And it's the only award-winning thing that I use because the show actually won a Scottish BAFTA. I only wrote like 2 minutes of it, but I was really pleased with this sketch and I thought it was like one of the best things that I'd ever written. I told everybody about it and I made everybody watch it and it was garbage. It was like the worst bit of a terrible show. And I actually searched.
Why was it so bad?
Because it was it was originally a 4-minute sketch and they cut it in half, but unfortunately they used the front half, which was all
the bit without the punchline.
Yeah. So they cut.
Oh, that was a joke. What?
They cut.
They did.
The half that had all the jokes in, they cut, and the half that was just like building up to the jokes, they kept in. And I sort of searched, and I found a review for the show, and it was like a 1-star review for the show, and it was really scathing. It said it was just awful and rubbish, and then it particularly picked out my sketch as being the worst part of this terrible, terrible show.
Was it still your sketch? I mean, the half that was your sketch.
The half that it was, that they just sort of
tweaked
basically what they did was cut it in half, and then just forced the punchline onto the end of it.
So it's like when you used to get those cut and shut cars, isn't it, back in the 90s?
Yes, it was a lemon.
And when they chop the front, stitch one half of one car and another car together to make a new car to sell on the cheap. and they just fall to bits. And then it's like someone coming along and reviewing that car going, these
But
cars
it's
are
only
rubbish.
the front half of the car.
It's like, well, it wasn't meant to be like that.
Yeah. It's like a mermaid with human legs and a fish head, pretty much.
Which would you pick if you had to pick to marry one of them? Which would you pick?
That's a difficult.
You immediately want to say, I want the top half as a woman, but then you have a little think and think, oh, hold on a
Doesn't
minute.
that go against the point of what marriage is supposed to be for? But then I'm not married, so
Interesting question.
yeah.
I mean, it's one very much for the difficult to decide, isn't it? Personally, I wouldn't go for either. If I had a choice, I'd go for whole fish.
like a flatfish.
We'll be after I've finished with it, Dave.
You are a big man, Tom. I can't even
lost
remember
a lot
what
of
I was-
weight.
Oh yeah, I know. He's been running every day.
I know.
Do you know what I did to avoid writing the other day?
What?
I went out and ran a half marathon.
Bloody hell. That is desperate.
The lengths that we go to.
The kids have been taken out. They've gone down to see the grandma or something. So I had the obligatory 2-hour gap,
Yep.
Dave. And I thought, do you know what? We're doing this podcast. I should probably go out and run until I can't run anymore. That'll be more pleasant.
Yeah.
How's that more pleasant than sitting, having a cup of coffee?
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the point was that even when you do write something and then it gets to where you want it to be and then you see it and it's just not as good as you thought it would be, and it's a real sort of shame, and it makes you wonder why you bothered in the first place.
Well, part of the problem is that writers don't quite often lose control at some point, don't they? Unless you're writing a novel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, even then, if you've
Yeah.
got a...
But then you could, when it's made into a screenplay. I've thought about this, John. What's going to happen when my novel gets made into a screenplay?
Yeah. Would it
and I've
work?
decided that I'll just take the money. I'll just sell out. I'm not going to be that writer that goes, no, you can't change that.
But yeah, it comes back to that, like, not worrying about it too much, doesn't it? Because the only way that I actually finished anything for you was I sort of made a promise that I was not going to look at anything that I'd already written until I got to the end. Because I'm terrible for that, like
that's
writing
good.
something and then going back over it and going back over it and back over it and reformatting and taking bits out. And it's like, no, I'm just gonna write it. Like, I've got it in my head. I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna get to the end and then I'll go back to the beginning again. That's the way I did that. But
I think everyone's got different ways of writing, haven't they? They've got their own system, if you like. You know, you get people that will write out the entire story of a novel in kind of like bullet form or flowchart form. Or,
yeah,
and there's people who just have a rough idea of where it's going and just kind of strap themselves in for the ride.
yeah,
So there's no right or wrong way, but I think I would tend to agree that the constantly feeding back, going back in a loop,
yeah. Doesn't
is
Doesn't
just
help.
slows everything down so much, doesn't it? It probably helps. You've probably done some of your first edit, I guess, by the time you've done your...
Except you'll probably have to go back and change it all because you've had another idea that changes
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah. But that is a good reason to just keep writing.
That's probably a good thing to do, Dave. Well done.
Well,
Well, it helped you finish it, didn't it? Got you
Well, it
finished.
did. It got it finished in the end, and I did all the way through. Had sort of worries about, maybe I should have a look at this again. Maybe I should get somebody else to look at it and make sure. Eventually, I just had to say, no, sod it. We'll just make it. But you can do that if you're making it yourself. It doesn't really matter, does it? You know, that's the kind of thing about self-publishing as well, I suppose. It's you can decide when it's finished and when it's as good as it's going to be. That means it's not as good as it would have been if a professional had got involved and helped, but I don't know. It depends what you want, doesn't it? Whether you want to finish something or whether you're holding out for a bestseller. Because my main reason for doing it was I suddenly started thinking, what if my daughter asks me what did you do with your life? And I say,
Oh, like so a proper...
yeah.
midlife
And I was
crisis.
like, oh, I'm a writer. And she goes, well, what did you write? And I go, nothing at all. I've never written anything. And I thought, no, actually, it would be nice to have one thing before I die that's actually finished. So that's what I did.
No, I think there's probably a whole episode in the midlife crisis
There definitely is.
Yeah.
thing, isn't there?
Yeah.
You do realise you're running out of time a little bit, don't you? Especially when the years kind of speed up in quite a freaky way. When you have kids, it's like time's just, they're just knocking back the years. There they go.
Yeah.
It's when you look at the opportunities thing, that, like when you go on BBC Writers' Room or things like that, and it's like such and such for under 25-year-olds. You think, oh,
Yeah,
God.
can't do that.
I used to be able to apply
Yeah.
for those. I mean, I never did, but I used to bookmark them in my Internet Explorer or Netscape.
It's true though. You do it, but it all does all feed into the same sort of obsession of like, what's the point? What's the point? No one's, and like, you kind of got to get that out of your head, haven't you? And just like you said, just write it.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be.
No, just write it for the sake of writing it. First off, until it's finished, it really doesn't matter. But
do you find though that I find one of my biggest blocks is this sort of selfish thing? Like, if I am going off for whatever 3 hours to write, I feel like I ought to be doing something else.
yeah,
I mean, it is basically selfish, because unless you've sat down with your wife and said, "Darling, I've decided to quit my career. I'm going to be a writer.
I have a burning ember inside of me.
It's something I need to do, and I've decided to be a writer. So that's what I'm going to be doing from now on." And I mean, that's such a dickish thing to do as well. So it's quite difficult, because you want to be a reasonable person, but at the same time you realise that you're just pissing off for 3 hours at a time.
Yeah.
I'm mostly falling asleep.
Well, that's where being on a train
exactly,
comes into its own,
it's
isn't
totally
it?
guilt-free.
That's
Whereas
where
I
that's
just get the guilt.
true.
I come down here and I'll sit and I'll start writing, and then after about half an hour I think, I wonder if Katie's starting dinner. I should probably go and like maybe chop an onion for her or something, or
yeah.
I don't know. It's a toughie. So I think you have to make the decision, don't you? You have to sort of announce it almost. You do have to say, "This is what I want to. I need to do this for whatever reason."
Yeah,
It is.
but it's true. Like, because if you've been commissioned to write something, then it's your job.
That's right.
And you don't. I guess commission writers maybe don't have that feeling of like, I should be doing something else, because this is exactly what they should be doing. Maybe we should commission each other to write something.
That's good.
Like some kind of circular Ponzi writing
Exactly.
scheme.
Yeah. What we do is we all commission 3 people beneath us, and then they commission 3 people beneath them.
The failing
Writers
writers
pyramid. Yeah.
We charge everyone 50 quid to get into it.
And 5% of any royalties from anything that's written as part of the scheme.
Brilliant.
But we also get an option on their book if it's any good.
Oh, no, we can't do this. No. Because imagine you sat there, Jonathan Ross, interview. There's a rumour going around that you started a Ponzi scheme. That's the Jonathan Ross.
Yeah, no. It's not a pyramid. It's an oblong.
It's a writing opportunist marketing platform.
Right. Yes. So, our tasks for the next episode are to finalise the pamphlet for the Pyramid Writers Scheme and to find some teenage poetry, our first published poetry.
Well, that's our first ever podcast done. Join us next time when we'll be digging out our embarrassing adolescent poetry. Apparently, that's an idea that at the time seems like it's going to be really hilarious, and then turns out to be just deeply humiliating and awkward.
Quite hairy arms, so I never really liked having sleeves.
I have nature sleeves.
Exactly.
I have no need of your sheep sleeves.
I get too hot in the arm region, so.
Hello?
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?